Coming up on today's Locked On Senators. Following our discussion yesterday on Shane Pinto's next deal, today we're looking at restricted free agent Erik Brannstrom and what his next contract should look like.
And we finish up the first round of our 2023 NHL Draft Prospect Profiles with three players: Riley Heidt, Bradley Nadeau, and Tanner Molendyk.
Three good Canadian boys. We'll get to that. And the Ottawa Senators have signed one of their drafted prospects, and he's a friend of the show. That's all coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 822 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Please like and subscribe wherever you download your podcast. We're also available on YouTube. We also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Today is Friday, June 16th, and Pilsy, the NHL buyout window is officially open.
And Ross, for the first time in what seems like a long time, this is kind of a nothing date for the Ottawa Senators. You and I were going over their cap friendly, being like, there's got to be some sort of buyout candidate for the Ottawa Senators. It wouldn't be an offseason without a buyout. But no, this team, all these contracts are pretty good after Pierre Dorion mopped up a couple of his mistakes last season.
And, well, there was a lot of water to be mopped up because you had to buy out Colin White. They've also bought out, Michael Del Zotto was bought out last summer as well. And then 2 years earlier, it was Bobby Ryan. So it's not like Ottawa's a stranger to the buyout period. But this time, they might actually get a kickback on a deal they got rid of. It's going to be Matt Murray watch in Toronto. And if the Leafs do decide to buy out Matt Murray, the Senators will save $1.3 million against the cap next year. That would be not offset, but they'd have to pay an extra $666,000 the year after. But the Leafs would be paying $2 million that year after. So I think it would be beneficial for the Senators to get that Matt Murray buyout. We're not sure if it's going to happen, but the Leafs have until June 30th at 5 p.m. to decide on any buyouts. The window is open from 48 hours after the Stanley Cup final finishes, which is this morning, all the way until June 30th. So buyouts are here, and you can go check out Cap Friendly, one of the best resources on the internet, and they have a full calculator that you can go. So if you want to have some fun with that, feel free. But Pilsy, today it's about RFAs. Yesterday was Shane Pinto. Lots of great reaction we got from them, from all the citizens out there on Twitter at Sens Central, Instagram LockedOn.Senators. We even posted it on our YouTube, and all the comments were great. It seems like $3 million is the high that people want to go with Shane Pinto. Years, as many as you can get with that price tag. But with Erik Brannstrom, it's much more complicated because this is a player who just in the lineup isn't going to be a top four defenseman barring injuries, and you want to knock on wood there. But with that, you need to have good depth. But what does that depth cost with Erik Brannstrom? He's coming off just a one-year contract at a $900,000 cap hit. One thing I think we can agree on is he's due for a raise. But the question is, Pilsy, how much should he be getting?
Yeah, and this is honestly one of the most divisive discussions between Sens fans, which is hilarious. Our number 5 or number 6, wherever you want to put him, defenseman, people are up in arms about how they feel about this guy. But it's a great discussion because you look at Erik Brannstrom and you're like, man, there's so much potential there. He's got good qualities, but for a guy who is quoted and Branny moves pucks, yeah, sure, he moves pucks, but they don't end up in the back of the net very often for the guy. But you look at, I guess, his unadvanced analytics, goals, assists, things like that. It doesn't pop off on the page very much. But you take a look at his advanced analytics, the Corsi and things like that, and he's one of the better defensemen on this team in that aspect. So it's going to be interesting. This is, again, one of those arbitrations. We'll see if it goes to arbitration, but if it did, I'd be so interested to hear the back and forth because both sides would have good points here. I think where we need to start this discussion for Erik Brannstrom, though, Ross, is the term, because I think that that starts the discussion. And I just want to remind people it's important also when you're looking at comparing contracts around the leagues. UFA contracts are vastly different than RFA contracts. Sure, they may be slotted in the same spots, points, similar things like that, but the leverage, the Ottawa Senators have all the leverage right now with the RFAs, and that's how this system is set up. When the players are young and RFAs, the leverage goes to the teams. So that smaller market teams, they don't just draft a player and then he gets outpriced right away. They want those teams to have the leverage. But you can't have that over the players the whole time. Then they become UFAs, and now the players have the leverage. So while the Sens have leverage here, they need to flex that, and they need to get these talented young players under good deals, even if it's shorter term.
And the qualifying offer for Erik Brannstrom, it's a 15% increase. It'd be $945,000. He's not a UFA for another 4 seasons. So any contract term of 3, 2, or 1 years, he'll be an RFA at the end of it. Pilsy already alluded to the fact that he does have arbitration rights. He also is increasing his leverage by going to the most powerful agency. Last year, Erik Brannstrom switched agents. He's now with Newport Sports, who has a weird relationship with the Senators.
Yeah.
They had Chris Weidman, Erik Karlsson, Mark Stone, but they also have Josh Norris and Brady Tkachuk, 2 guys who signed long-term with the Ottawa Senators. So I think that it's not good. It's not bad. It's whatever you make of it, with Craig Oster, Brady Tkachuk's uncle, doing the contract negotiation for Erik Brannstrom on this deal. He had 18 points in 74 games. I thought he got better as the year went on.
Yep.
And as he's had to do in the last number of seasons, he's had to step into Thomas Chabot's role at the end of the year when he's gone down with injury. And Branny had 10 points in the last 17 games of this season. Sorry, last 19 games of this season. Now, he's never going to be a guy who scores goals, even though the odd time he does, it decides to be highlight reel. Like that goal he scored against Tampa near the end of the season was nasty.
But he was doing that play over and over, but it just 9 times out of 10, it just ended up with the goalie making an easy save and freezing it for a face-off.
9 times out of 10, Brian Elliott wasn't in net.
Yes, fair.
But what do you offer Erik Brannstrom? Because to me, I start the conversation at like 2 years at 1.2. Like I'm seeing a lot of people comfortable going as high as $2 million per year. I think with the way that the Sens cap is structured and knowing he's going to be a third pair guy when everyone else is healthy, we always talk about Jake Sanderson being up next year and needing that huge raise. Well, 2 years down the line, you're going to have to do the same with Jacob Chychrun. Mm-hmm. And I would almost, in a perfect world, kind of have those 2 expiring at the same time, and then just kind of re-looking at the decor after 2 years and saying, how are we going to move this around and figure it out? I'm starting 2 years, 1.25 would kind of be like my initial offer. I'd go as high as 1.35, but I really don't think Brannstrom has that much leverage to go any higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where it goes. Like, if you're the Ottawa Senators, you got to be pushing for that low dollar amount. So that's definitely fair. I think Do
you think that they're going to push for a 1 or 2 year term?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 1 or 2 years. And I think Brandy's going to want 1 or 2 years. Like, I think that's a guy that's going to want to bet on himself having a better year than that.
So I'd like to apologize to Dougie Dog, who just wrote in on Twitter at Sens Central. He wants 8 years at $750K for Brandy.
Don't think that one's going to happen on Be a GM mode. You might be able to swindle that one, but I don't know about in real life. But I think, look, I'm admittedly higher on Brannstrom than you. I think we've kind of hashed that out in the past, and that's kind of been the narrative for this show. So I think he's going to get a little bit more than that, just because his agents can show, hey, look, a couple of years in a row, Chabot went down, and who stepped up and played those minutes? Now, I can already hear the YouTube comments being like, yeah, but he got no points. He didn't do much, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I know. But the thing is, and goes back to my rant with when we had Meth on about Branny, is I don't think you can just kind of pigeonhole him as a bottom pair defenseman. Again, I can already hear all the comments, all the yells at me. Yes, I know he is a third pair defenseman, but the big value with Erik Brannstrom is the versatility, the fact that he can go up and play top 4 minutes for a short period of time. He can kill penalties. He can play on the power play. So I think the versatility and having to do that multiple seasons in a row, Branny and his agents are going to use that in their favor. I think, Ross, we're looking at more of a 2-year, I'll put it closer to 1.5, just because if you look, he's already got a decent amount of NHL games. He's played like top 4 minutes consistently at the end of these seasons. So I'm going to go 2 years, 1.5 for Branny.
Okay.
And I mean, that's still very affordable. Like we're talking about $300,000 difference here.
100% when you're looking at it like that. And you look at all the teams around the league, like how are successful teams building their back end? And I know that Vegas has a different structure than I'd say most teams, but they're paying their bottom pair a whole lot more. So if you're the Senators, you're looking at that and saying, yeah, 1 point. Hell, if the Leafs buy out Matt Murray, literally the savings you'd get from Matt Murray would pay for the Erik Brannstrom contract, which would be ideal in this scenario. But anything under $1.6 million and under 4 years in term, I'm going to be okay with. I think I would be happy with anything under 1.3. Again, keeping that term to RFA at the end of it and then reevaluate in 2 years' time. But he is a valuable piece. I don't want anyone coming at me here saying that I'm a Branny hater. I'm admittedly lower than Pilsy on him, but I do think there's value to him. And he's the type of defenseman where if one of your puck movers goes down, he's shown that he can step up in that. So let us know in the comments, what do you think Erik Brannstrom's next contract should look like from his perspective, from your perspective, from the teams? And I'm seeing a lot of people just saying trade him. Well, what's the value there? What kind of return do you think you're going to get on Erik Brannstrom, and is it worth it?
No, I don't believe it is. I think the league value of Brannstrom is very low, and that's fair. He hasn't put up a lot to raise his value here, and I just think he's so much more valuable to the Ottawa Senators as a versatile guy that can go up, down, and he can play left and right side. Like I just think the value there is so useful that it would be silly to trade him for pennies on the dollar.
So let us know in the comments. Coming up next, we're going to get to our NHL draft profiles. We've got 3 Canadian kids from the BCHL, WHL, as well as a Senators prospect signing his entry-level contract. That's all coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Bird Dogs. You guys know I love the Bird Dogs. Their shorts are my new shorts. They're the shorts of the summer. If you're not wearing Bird Dog shorts, let me tell you, you're going to want to make the switch because Bird Dog shorts, they make you look good. First of all, the stretch khaki shorts, they fit slimmer through the thigh and give you that sculpted leg look. Ross has been on the Peloton hard, so he's looking for the sculpted leg look, I'm sure, coming up for this summer, a hot summer in Winnipeg. That's the play for you, Ross. And they have polos now. They basically are like Lululemon shorts and style stuff, but fit way better. And the fit is better than regular shorts made of stiff, restricting cotton. Get that out of here. They fixed the issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches. So you get a slimmer fit without having to sacrifice the movement there. And summer, it gets hot. You're working out, you're going on hikes, you're golfing, whatever. They have anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. So go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl and you're going to get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. I use mine every day. I already had my coffee this morning using that tumbler. So that's birddogs.com/lockedonnhl for your Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, I promise you.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Owl & Co. Woohoo! Better? I will.
That's better. Yeah. As long as you get the C out of there. It's not a cuckoo. It's a hoo-hoo. So if we have an owl expert, let us know.
Well, we have Owl and Co. as the expert groomers on this show because your grooming routine doesn't have to suck every morning. You want to make sure your hair's slicked back. You want to make sure your beard's feeling good, your hair full of nourishment. Well, the Owl and Co. starting lineup is all for you. Hair tonics, sea salt sprays, and utility bombs, versatility at its finest. Say hello to Owl and Co. or say woohoo to Owl and Co. So all their products are made with natural ingredients like coconut oil, sweet almond oil, shea butter. It ensures that your skin is getting all the nourishment that it needs. They're made by hand in small batches, so you know they're going to be set to the highest standard. They're all local ingredients, all local, as Chris Sinclair is a Sens Central citizen. So support local, support Senators fans. Go outside your comfort zone. Start with these products every single morning, and you'll see that a grooming routine doesn't have to suck. And in no time, it can become the part of the day that you look forward to. Owl & Co. is all about helping you find that grooming routine. So go check them out. owlandcogrooming.com. They're also on Instagram, Owl & Co. Grooming, on Twitter as well. Locked On Sens fans, we have a discount for you. Senators 15 at checkout gets you 15% off your next order. We know you're going to love it. We can't wait for you to try it. It's owlandcogrooming.com. All right, Pilsy. Locked On Senators is your home for all things 2023 NHL Draft. So far, we've had 29 player profiles plus 4 bonus ones on the weekend, and we still have a week and a half until the National Hockey League draft in Nashville. And stay tuned for more information, but the plan is a Locked On Senators live stream for an hour and a half up to the draft, and then a reaction podcast in your feeds by the time you wake up Thursday. And then day 2 of the NHL draft truly is some of the best days on the NHL calendar, and we will be here with you each step of the way. Coming in at number 30 on our 2023 Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings from the WHL's Prince George Cougars, it's Riley Heidt.
I'm a big fan of Riley Heidt right off the top, Ross. I'll get that out of the way because this is a player that is very exciting to watch. He puts up big points, but he's got a little scrappiness to him. He's a bit of a pest out there. So you love seeing guys that can put up the points and back it up with the chirps and the physical play as well. And that's, I mean, if we're talking about putting up points, Ross, I'll let you read off Riley Heidt's stats because that's what he does very well.
Ironically, Riley Heidt is under 6 feet tall. He's listed as 5'10". He's 178 pounds. I mentioned he plays for Prince George. He's listed as a centerman, but some think maybe he's a winger at the next level. Left shot, he played 68 games with Prince George this year, had 25 goals, 72 assists, good for 97 points, and had 36 penalty minutes as well. In the World Under-18s, he had just 2 assists in the 5 games, playing predominantly in a role that would be considered a bottom 6, trying to grind it out, penalty killing specialist type role. But he's known in the past as having that high-end upside. He was the 2nd overall pick into the WHL in their Bantam draft. So the points come plenty for Riley Heidt. If you're looking at the WHL stats, of course, Connor Bedard dominating the leaderboard there this year. But during the regular season, it was none other than Riley Heidt, 5th in scoring in the WHL, behind guys whose names you would know, like Logan Stankoven, Zach Benson, and Connor Bedard.
Yeah, and Ross, where he did most of his damage was on the power play. Well, I shouldn't say most, but more than your typical point producers, as 45% of his points were on the power play. That is a very high number when you're looking at 97 points. Not a math guy, but that's right around 45 points on the power play. So
45%, not a math guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, 97 points, round that up to 100, you're looking at around 40, 45. I think that checks out. But the thing is, like, Heidt has such a nice toe drag wrister, and he's confident using that from mid-range. He like, there's so many good attributes from him because it's not all about the shot. He's a great playmaker too. So on the power play, like those penalty killers, they have no idea whether he's going to shoot or pass. And when you've got that extra guy there, he can really create space for his teammates.
But he does have an elite shot, right?
Big time. Oh, yeah.
If you bring up one attribute when you're looking at describing him to others, it's the shot, which I think is phenomenal and a reason why he's able to put so much on the power play. Defensively, though, Pilsy, not the best defensive-minded forward.
When you get 97 points and 45% of your points are on the power play, it's probably pretty likely you're not hustling on defense too much. That's just how that goes. But you know what? I'm not going to use that as a knock on him because I've said it before. When you have these full offensive guys, I don't like when coaches drag down their offense just to boost their defense a little bit. Now, obviously, you want to get better defensively. That goes without saying, but I don't want it to come at a price where he's not able to be creative and produce offensively. Like, you got to take the good with the bad with some of these players like this. And there's a lot of good to like about Riley Heidt here. And he had a 39-point increase from last season. So he's really jumped up there. And this is a high-profile guy, Ross, because he went second overall in the 2020 WHL draft. Connor Bedard went first overall in that draft. And then Braden Yager, who we've already covered, he went third overall.
Yeah, I think Heidt is going to be higher than we have him here at 30 in the draft. Corey Pronman, again, just skewing our rankings with a low ball here. Corey Pronman has him at 59 on his list. Everyone else is at the end of the first round. Well, yep. Craig Button has him at 37. We've got Chris Peters at 30, Elite Prospects at 27, and Scott Wheeler at 23. So Elite Prospects, they do their shades of. I thought it was hilarious that they have Nick Schmaltz, but they made sure that it was an angry Nick Schmaltz.
I mean, Sens fans know Nick Schmaltz well. This guy is a Sens killer. It's crazy. So yeah, that's an interesting comparison for sure. Ross, I want to ask you this, or do you have a point to go on?
No, not at all. I was just going to say that he wore the A in Prince George. So you're looking at a guy who has some leadership abilities as well.
Yep, absolutely. Do you take a look at that 45% point from the power play in junior, and do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing?
It's whatever you want it to be. But it's probably not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's probably not my favorite thing. But if you see, because he has 97 points, right? You take off 45, as you so eloquently
approximately.
You're still looking at a guy where if he had a regular number of power play points, then he's still producing.
Still a point per game, yeah.
Right, exactly. Like his even strength numbers, I want to say would be around above average.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do the math here. I was like,
no chance.
Yeah, okay, because that's an interesting sticking point where some scouts are like.
And by the way, it's a lot of assists on the power play.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where his playmaking comes through. And his lethal shot, he can draw defenders and then just pass it off.
He only had 4 power play goals this year.
What? Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
39 power play assists.
Oh, my God. I did not think it would be that tilted.
Well, Chase Wheatcroft, who also plays on Prince
George.
Such
a WHL name.
Chase Wheatcroft, for sure. Had 47 goals, but 22 of them were on the power play. So Riley Heidt was just teeing up the Wheatcrofter.
Yeah, the Wheatcrofter. Yeah, because that's an interesting discussion between scouts. Some of them are like, "Oh, what? We're supposed to knock him because he's dominating on the man advantage." Like, that's silly. But then other scouts are like, "Hey, this is inflated, and this is a bit of a red flag here." So it's interesting to see how scouts will take a look at that.
No, I love the difference in opinions on him. One Western Conference scout told Elite Prospects, "I just don't know what he does or what he gets accomplished. He gets points at home on a team where someone's going to get points." I don't really get that last point. Like, somebody doesn't have to get points. A lot of teams don't have a lot of 97-point guys. So another Western Conference scout says, "Great with the puck, great on the power play, need to see more in other parts of his game." That, I think, is very fair. Mm-hmm. And that's what's holding him back from being, in my opinion, a top 20 pick, because the skill is evident and he plays with a chip.
Yep.
NHL GMs love that. But I do want to see a little bit more at 5-on-5 before I'm willing, if it's my team, to put a first round tag on his name.
And that's fair. Maybe this is biased by me, but I like this kid a lot. I got Riley Heidt at 4.5 stars for me. I would bet on this kid, Ross. Like, great shot, smart playmaker, good skater, and a scrappy attitude. I see him going in the 20s. I see him getting picked somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah, anything after 20, I would say I wouldn't be surprised. But if it's me making the pick, I'd probably have him 28, 29, towards the end of the first round. We'll have our list at the end here. But Riley Heidt, do you have any teams that you think would be a good fit for him?
I got to pull up the NHL draft order here.
A lot of teams with multiple
I got it.
Are at the end of this first round.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's the wrong spot. I could see Colorado liking this kid.
That'd be cool.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to go Colorado for now at 27.
All right. Well, hey, make sure you write in the comments below how wrong Pilsy is, or give him some stick taps if he's got it right. We're putting all 70 of our profiles up on YouTube, so go check them out. Locked On Senators. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast as well. All right, coming up next, 2 more draft profiles to get to, and Pistol Pete signs his entry-level contract. That's coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Guys, if you're getting a ticket for any event, I'm talking sports, music, comedy, theater, there's one place you got to go if you want no stress and you want to just get hyped about your event. It's Game Time. Download the app and you'll find that buying tickets to your favorite events doesn't have to be stressful. You don't have to deal with some of these other ticket apps where you just want to pull your hair out because the login stuff is crazy. They're charging you through the roof. No, don't worry about that. With killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee, stop stressing and get hyped for the fun. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time actually has deals on tickets right up to the day of events. You can get exclusive flash deals for any ticket you want. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. In fact, if you happen to find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will even credit you 110% of the difference. So you get images of your seat before you buy so you know what to expect when you arrive. You can buy your tickets in a matter of seconds, just 2 taps, boom, boom, and you got your tickets right on your phone. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. We're going to get you $20 off your first purchase. You'll gotta love that. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
All right, Pillsy, back here, Locked On Senators, home of all the NHL draft coverage you need to get prepared for the big day in Nashville, Tennessee, coming up on June 28th and 29th. We're going to have everything, wall-to-wall coverage here on Locked On Senators, one of our favorite times of the year, despite the Senators not having a draft pick right now.
I was going to say right now, yeah.
They're going to pick in the top 3 rounds. I'm even going to go so far now that we know that it's 99% that Alex DeBrincat is traded by the draft.
99% you're bumped up to. Okay.
Up. You don't cut like the club elected arbitration. I don't buy that as a good sign.
Yeah. You got to check out our friend on Twitter at GatNoGreg. He did a good video replying to the tweet that they will be going to club elected arbitration.
So good. Coming the 2023 Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings. This guy is a point producer through and through at every level. He was the leading scorer in the BCHL this year with the Penticton Vs. It's Bradley Nadeau.
Bradley Nadeau of the BCHL. It's Ross, the BCHL is really on the rise lately. They've had some huge high draft picks come out of there, but it's very interesting for me because I have a really hard time judging BCHL prospects on a competition scale appropriately because, I mean, you look at Bradley Nadeau's scoring here, and he made a joke of this league. Like, let's just be honest. In 54 games, 45 goals, 68 assists, 113 points in 54 games, and he kept the party going in the playoffs with 35 points in 17 playoff games. Yeah, if you're wondering, he did win playoffs MVP with those numbers.
Yeah, real surprise there.
Shocker.
He's over there. He's a New Brunswick kid playing in the BCHL.
Which is so strange to me because, what a move to make. Like, now, if he was going to the WHL or something like that, I guess that makes sense. But he would probably have to go to the Q if he's a New Brunswick guy. So I'd like to find out more about him and his brother going from East Coast to West Coast.
Yeah, well, right. His older brother is the reason why he followed him there. And he's 19 years old, was passed over in the draft. 2-time BCHL champion, though, with the Penticton Vs. And he also had quite a season with 110 points as well. So probably pretty cool for them to play together, right? And guess what?
Same line even.
Guess what?
What?
That's going to continue. They're both going to the University of Maine next season as well. So a family affair, and they'll be a lot closer to home there. Maine is about directly south from New Brunswick. Bradley Nadeau is a center. I think he'll be a winger at the next level, though. 5'10", 161 pounds. We already went through the point totals, so let's go through the rankings. Oh, wait, he's 5'10" with a ton of skill. Of course, Scott Wheeler has him high on his list, has him at 22 listed, whereas everyone else is a second-round talent for him. Elite prospects at 35, Chris Peters at 39, Corey Pronman at 36, and Craig Button the lowest at 46 on his list. This guy is a project. I think he'll be in the NHL in about 5 years, maybe even 6. But the patience could pay off because he dazzles offensively. Even though he's listed at 5'10", like from the highlights I watched, like I don't know if it's because it's the BCHL, but you wouldn't think that different leagues, different heights per se. But he looks big out there to me. So I didn't think that the size was much of an issue at the level he was at.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's tough to judge with the BCHL. I feel like most of the bigger players that are at that age level go to the dub. So it's tough. I'd love to hear more from different scouts how they judge that. We'll definitely get into that in our mock draft discussions, I'm sure. But for Nadeau, Ross, like this kid has a heavy shot. Like he loads up top shelf wristers. He's got a booming one-timer. EP awarded him with the 4th best shot in this draft. So regardless of what league he's playing in, the shot is there and that shot is going to be effective. So I wouldn't be surprised, Ross, if we see him put up, Cy Young type numbers, goals versus assists when he gets to the University of Maine. Like I can see him putting up double-digit goals first year, right, heading into college.
The only players that Elite Prospect says have a better shot than Nadeau in this.
Wait, can I try to get them?
Yeah.
Okay. Connor Bedard.
Number 1.
Colby Barlow.
Number 5. So below Nadeau.
Wow. That's surprising for me. Braden Yager.
Nope.
Ooh. Okay, I'm stumped. I thought for sure those would be the 3 ahead of him.
Are you sure you don't want to take another guess at number 2 and 3?
Is Fantilli up there?
Fantilli's number 2.
Okay, so and then judging by your tone, I'm going to say Leo Carlson was also there.
No, Matvei Michkov.
Yeah, I should have got Michkov
for them. And guess who they have shades of for Bradley Nadeau at Elite Prospects Draft Guide?
I think it's Mike Hoffman, right?
It's Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Ridiculous one-timer on him. Decent playmaking, but at the level he's at, it's ridiculously talented. Obviously, look at the point totals. But I want to see next season. It's a real shame that you can't see him play a year at Maine before drafting him, right? Because it is tough to judge with these guys. Because sometimes, like Kyle Turris, for example, it's way back when, but he was a top 5 pick out of the BCHL. So it's like, okay, the skill is evident. It's going to translate. Whereas when you're looking at a 2nd, 3rd round pick, look at Johnny Tyconic. Perfect example. The Ottawa Senators took Johnny Tyconic in the middle of the 2nd round out of Penticton. And then he went to college and it just didn't translate at all at North Dakota. He ends up playing 5 years at college, has to transfer out of North Dakota. Now he's an ECHL all-star or superstar in the playoffs, you could say. But that's the thing. You're taking such a gamble when you're seeing these guys do whatever they want on the ice. Like they make it look easy at that level. But frankly, it's never going to be that easy for them again once they step foot in college hockey.
Now, Ross, I'll reference, and maybe this isn't the best example, but a guy that always comes to mind for me when you're talking about first-round talent drafted out of the BCHL is Alex Newhook. And funny enough, Newhook, that's an East Coast guy that went to play in the BCHL as well. So that's interesting. So Newhook was drafted 16th overall by the Avalanche in 2019. He dominated in the BCHL with the Victoria Grizzlies, 102 points. And then he went to Boston College, and he was able to put up 42 points in 34 games. So the transition wasn't too difficult for him. Now, probably Boston College, he's got a little bit more support and better teammates than Bradley Nadeau will have at Maine. I'm sure that's probably a fair statement. But you can still take a look. At least there's one player that was able to make that transition not too hard.
To me, this screams early second-round pick by a team that has multiple firsts.
Okay.
And you're insulating him in your prospect pool where you're almost just like putting him in the freezer. And it's like, yeah, he'll eat one day. But right now we're just going to let him like chill out, do your thing, develop as you will, and it'll be all good. Like I look at San Jose as a perfect spot for him. They've got the fourth overall pick. They've got a pick late in the first round where I think you take another swing. And then this is like the big swing where it's like, it's all good. He's the third guy we're picking. It's almost like the Senators taking Roby Yarventi. They knew that they had a bunch of firsts. They knew they wouldn't have to rush him. And now it's slow and steady, but the potential is still there. The potential for Bradley Nadeau is still going to be there in 3 years. I'm sure of it. He's too talented that he won't have pro potential, but a team's going to have to, they're going to have to buckle up if they're expecting him to jump into the NHL in a couple of years. This guy, he's a project, but he's one that the reward could be a 25, 30 goal scorer at the National Hockey League level who you can have on a first power play unit. Like that's the upside for a kid like this.
Yep, I agree. I got similar notes to you. My one note is I'm going to reserve my full Pillsy stamp of judgment till I see him at University of Maine. Obviously, NHL teams don't have that luxury.
I was going to say, imagine a scout could do that.
Yeah, yeah. And then my next comment on my final notes are he's going to be the first player selected in the second round. Doesn't he make sense for the Anaheim Ducks?
Yes.
Like that's a really good, or wait, are they the, yeah, they are the first. So I really see him going to the Anaheim Ducks.
That would be cool. So I'm going to call San Jose as mine. Like I like it. Oh no, the Winnipeg Ice are sold. They're moving to Washington. That's neither here nor there. But Bradley Nadeau, so I won't get to see Zach Benson anymore. That sucks. Bradley Nadeau is, I think, a guy who you're going to be excited to see highlights of every weekend when he plays at University of Maine next year. But for the reasons of the length of time until we see him as an NHLer and the risk that maybe the game won't be as easy at the next level, I think that's why we have him here at number 31 on our Locked On Senators draft rankings. For more prospect profiles, make sure you head on over to Locked On Senators on YouTube and download the podcast wherever you get yours. All right, coming in at number 32 on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings, it's defenseman from the Saskatoon Blades. It's Tanner Molendyk.
Tanner Molendyk, Ross, we had some discussions on him, and ultimately the best way to wrap up what this guy is, this guy's a skater. I mean, he is a great skater. Now, how does that translate to points and to the rest of his game? We'll get into that. But right off the bat, EP loves his skating, which we've said multiple times. They are very critical of guys skating. So for them to love a guy like this, that's saying a lot. They gave him the first award for four-way mobility skater in this entire draft class and second award for best straight line skater. So right off the bat, you can tell that what this guy does and his top attribute is one of the most important attributes in the game of hockey today, and that's being fleet of foot.
67 games, 9 goals, 28 assists, good for 37 points, 37 penalty minutes, and pure skating, as Pilsy said. But what else? What else is there about Tanner Molendyk's game? And that's why, like, when I read up and saw the awards that Elite Prospects gave him, I was like, oh, I bet you they have him as a lottery pick. I bet you that they're so high on him that they won't even be able to help themselves. He might even be 10th overall. No, Elite Prospects has him at 39th, which for a skating defenseman as elite as Tanner Molendyk, that was surprising to me and made me read into it a lot more because the others are all much higher on him outside of Craig Button, who has him at 48. Corey Pronman has him at 25. Chris Peters at 27. And Scott Wheeler at 42 as well. So 6 foot tall, 182 pounds, left shot defenseman, and an NHL scout wrote to EP. They said his feet are great, but his brain and his hands need to catch up for it to get to the next level. A lot of times I got to see him once in the playoffs, didn't stand out much. The ice dominated that game in Winnipeg. Molendyk was -3 in that game, but a lot of the reports, David St. Louis, Mitch Brown, all these guys from Elite Prospects noted that like he tries to use deception when he breaks the puck out of the zone, but he's moving so fast that his deception, he'll then like cut into 3 guys. And he'll just like it's flashy, but it's not efficient.
And that's the thing. Like I'm not going to knock a guy for being such a good skater, but there's not a whole lot else to his game that I'm really interested in, to be honest. Like I found from some highlights I saw that I didn't love his decision making when he's deciding where he's going to be positioned. Like I was seeing at times he's leaving guys wide open in front of the net to go attack a guy in the corner. He's not having the best gap control, and then he's got to use his skating to make up for that, which he can. He's such a good skater. He can mop up mistakes by just out skating and using his edges to get in the right spots. And that's obviously a very big thing. But I don't know, like I didn't notice much of a great shot. I think his playmaking mostly stems from his transition game, carrying the puck up the ice. I could be wrong there, but that's an assumption I'm making. And I didn't see him putting a lot of effort into defensive battles along the boards. Like, I don't see much of a B game past the great skating. Now, great skating can make up for a lot of things like that, as I've mentioned in past profiles, but I don't know. I'm curious to see how he's going to develop moving forward.
Yeah, because it was a good year-over-year improvement for him. He was almost 20 points higher, 19 exact points higher. He played 12 more games, albeit with Saskatoon this year. But he's going to be their number 1 guy next year. They should have a decent team as well. Like they need a big year out of him. And again, he's a guy where I would be timid because of the issues in the game outside of the skating, the issues that keep coming up. And it's not a lack of effort. Like he's a good shutdown defenseman. Like his work rate is high on the defensive side, and he's able to kill plays because of his great skating. But he needs to get into the right system. Yep. Like imagine Detroit or someone was able to get their hands on him and like work with Nick Lidstrom or work with like these elite guys who he needs a great coach is basically what I'm saying. So, I mean, if he came to Ottawa, like in a perfect world, he becomes like a Wade Redden type defenseman, right? Like just a smooth skating, like the first pass needs to be crispy coming out of the zone. Like that's, if I was to draft him, my first thing would be get him into a one-on-one skill development thing with my skills coach basically, and just say, hey, we're going to spend an hour a day all month just breaking the puck out of the zone, because he has the ability with his natural God-given gift of skating to be able to be one of the best puck-moving defensemen in this draft, but he seems to almost shoot himself in the foot every time he comes out of the zone, and he puts himself into more difficult situations than he needs to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, the first thing I thought of, Ross, is think of a guy like Jared Spurgeon. That's a guy that everyone applauds how great of a skater it is. And I don't think I would necessarily call Jared Spurgeon an offensive defenseman or a shutdown guy. He's just a good skater that has a well-rounded game. So my immediate thought was, hey, if he can land in Minnesota and you have Jared Spurgeon as a mentor, that makes a lot of sense. But they're drafting 21st and 53rd. I don't think that's a range that's going to really make sense for Molendyk here. So that's probably not going to happen. But that's the kind of idea I have. Like, try to get him with a team that has a veteran, great skating defenseman that can kind of point him, be like, hey man, like you got this great skating skill, but let's use it so that you can be a better playmaker, a guy that can break the puck up better, a guy that can be better defensively, all these sorts of things. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. I've got him at 3.5 stars here, Ross. I think the fact that he is like, being a good skater is one thing, being a great skater is one thing, but he's one of the best skaters in this class. That's an attribute that you can bet on and you can bank on, and you can try to round out the rest of his game.
You know what the problem is? And I hate to bring him up twice in one show, but doesn't this kind of remind you of how we described Johnny Tyconic when he was drafted by the Sens?
Yeah, a little bit, but Tyconic had those offensive abilities, right? Where
he was even further ahead.
Yeah, I mean, fair point there. I don't think Johnny Tyconic was as good a skater as Molendyk projects to be, but yeah, that's a fair point, and that's the thing. Johnny Tyconic never really rounded out the rest of his game, and now you can see where he's at. He's still a nice player, but can he make that jump?
He's
Not so convinced. Yeah,
excellent player. But yeah, I think next year is huge for Tanner Molendyk. I think that he's going to be, like I said, he's going to be the guy in Saskatoon, and it's going to be what he makes of it to make sure that he can put himself in a position going forward that kind of cements himself as a legit top end prospect. Because to me right now, he's a second round pick. Like,
agreed.
To me, he's a 4-star guy from pick 50 on. But I think somebody's going to fall in love with the skating and be able to reach up there from that. So I'm not as high on Tanner Molendyk, but he certainly has that wow factor when you see him out there and he's shaking around. He's trying to use deception. Like, he's trying all the right things. It's just going to take a little bit more to get him in the right spot in an organization where he's going to excel and be a 5-6 defenseman who has power play upside and who's going to be a guy who doesn't hurt you at 5-on-5 either. So lots of questions, I would say, surround Tanner Molendyk, but also a lot of upside when it comes to the skating. So that's Tanner Molendyk coming in at number 32, rounding out the first round of our draft rankings. But we've got a top 50 coming, 70 profiles in total, including bonus on the weekend. So go check those out on YouTube at Locked On Senators. All right, Pilsy, wrapping up another great week. Dare I say, Pilsy, a historic week in Ottawa Senators history.
You might say that, Ross. I think that is very fair to say.
We have a live stream that we put on available on your audio podcast. So if you missed any of that, it's a 2-hour one. So if you didn't have time during the week, rewind the clock and get back to the moment that the Ottawa Senators were sold to Michael Andlauer. But Pilsy, the first move, and I know he doesn't have the keys, but the first move outside of the Eugene Melnyk era is our guy, Pistol Pete, Pow Pow, Oskar Pettersson, has signed his entry-level contract. We already knew he was coming to development camp. We told everyone that last week. He'll be in Sens colors there, and he's going back to Rogla to play in the SHL last year. But, man, what a player. Like, we covered him before he was signed. He was in our top 10 prospects. I believe, though, he was an honorable mention we had now. Pilsy, the biggest note I have on this is Pierre Dorion, in his little press clipping, called him one of the best prospects in the system.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at projecting him in the future, maybe not where he's at right now, but projecting him in the future, he has a lot of skill and he's already on a great path. You look at his J20 numbers, 23 goals in 24 games. Like, that's incredible. And he had 29 games of SHL experience. We talked about it. He was one of those kids that forced the SHL team to pay him more because they had him go over the ice time limit. And I think he's going to get a real good crack at playing some serious SHL minutes with Rogla this season, Ross.
And again, for more, we'll point you towards our top prospects episode, the first of the 2 episodes where we had 6 through 10 and honorable mentions. But I just want to repeat what he told us. You can also go learn more about him. We had him on twice, and we will have him on hopefully for a live interview at Sens Dev Camp. But we said, hey, who do you model your game after? And I loved his answer. Patrick Hornqvist, right? A guy who was a consistent 40, 50-point player and who just annoyed the heck out of absolutely every opponent that he ever played on. And we hadn't really seen much of it. All the clips we had seen from J20 was him just scoring and scoring and scoring. But then at the World Juniors, he was playing that third line role, in-your-face hockey, physical. I love his game. I think he's going to fit in as a perfect Senator going forward. I think one more year in Rogla, then Belleville for 1 or 2 years, and then he'll make the jump to Ottawa. But congratulations to Oskar Pettersson signing that 3-year contract extension. Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts is you mentioned it quickly, but yeah, the Winnipeg Ice moving to Washington, that's a damn shame.
It is a damn shame. Well, a part of the condition of the sale to bring them to Winnipeg was to get a new arena. They're playing in literally the university. It's like them playing at Carleton University Ice House.
It's honestly a joke. Like, whenever I watch any WHL highlights, you know when they're playing in Winnipeg right off the bat because, yeah, they can't be playing there. That's just a matter of fact. And it's
ironically their last games as Winnipeg Ice were at the Jets arena because it was the WHL final.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
They sold out the lower bowl. Like, there is a fan base. It's a hockey town. There's no question about that. But it is a lot too, because like the AHL team is here too. Like, there's an NHL team, an AHL team, and a WHL team. It's just it's a lot. I get it, but it's unfortunate because they sold out the lower bowl of the I keep going to call it the empty ice X. But anyways, Canada Life Center. There you go, where the Jets play. So real damn shame.
Well, and Ross, it just sucks it's going to the States. Like, that's another WHL team loss. Like, I saw the Kootenay Ice. So the previous in Cranbrook, BC, that's a nice barn, and things didn't work out there. And then they went to Winnipeg, and then now they're going back to the States in Washington. Do you know where in Washington?
I can't pronounce it.
Okay.
Starts with a W.
Okay.
Yeah. Wenatchee.
I don't know. I have no clue where that is.
I'm mispronouncing it, but yeah, that's super unfortunate. I don't know what the sale is, but kind of funny in a sense that the Winnipeg Ice got a team for 4 years. Okay, they finished second in the East, second in the East, first in the East, first in the East.
Competitive team, and Ross, if you're the Brandon Wheat Kings, that sucks for you because you finally had a team that is close by, and
the travel
in the dub is absolutely insane.
And Winnipeg is by far the furthest east. It's not even
like, well, Brandon. Yeah.
Even that's 2 hours west.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh man, that sucks for me.
Darn.
No more boots on the ground. At least they left me with 2 Senators prospects at the time. Was Zach Ostapchuk. So the last game I'll ever have seen here was Zach Ostapchuk scoring a penalty shot in the WHL semifinals. So I'll have to, wipe my tears up with that. But
so RIP to the Ice. I hope they change the name. Like,
they
kind of a lame name.
Yeah. All right. My final thoughts is enjoy the weekend. You had your anniversary Wednesday. I got mine today. We're gonna have a great day. Put the phone down for a little bit, and
yeah, right.
You know what? Hey, my thought was that the Sens were gonna sell while we're like on the way to the spa. And it's like, oh, turn your phone off now. God damn it. No, all good. So have a great weekend, everyone. And a reminder that 2 draft profiles will be posted tomorrow. We can give away the names, right? Right?
Yeah, if people are still hanging around past 50 minutes, they deserve the names. Yeah.
All right. Nick Lardis, who happens to play for the Hamilton Bulldogs, owned by Michael Anlauer, and Jaden Perron, Winnipegger, who is going to, the University of North Dakota. The last note accent we're going to do. We did one last weekend, Andrew Strathman, and now Jaden Perron. Pretty solid players. I'm a big fan of both. That's the tease for you there. But for today, we say goodbye. Again, let us know in the comments, what is the fair deal for Erik Brannstrom? For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.